Good morning, happy Friday. We are looking at carbon compounds. Please make sure you have your guided outline notes and fill it out. Before I formally start teaching, I want you guys to try to remember everything that you learned about this topic, about the four macromolecules, and write it down as like a little brain dump exercise, okay? These are the learning objectives that we're going to work on. What elements does carbon bond with to make up life's molecules, and what are the functions of each of the four groups of macromolecules, okay? So, you guys remember anything about that? If you do, write it down, talk to your neighbors about it. Yes, speaker.
Carbon bonds with hydrogen.
Alright, awesome. So, JVN said carbon bonds with oxygen, nitrogen, all these other elements. Good. Anyone else? Want to share anything else? Yes. You said the four macromolecules are carbohydrates, lipids, enzymes, and nucleotides. Okay. All right. Okay. Everybody hear that? What he said? Okay. All right. Awesome. So these are some of the vocab words. You guys have it on your outline. You can fill it out while I do the presentation. Okay. So we have carbon. Carbon is an element, and something special about carbon is that it has 4 valence electrons, okay? So as I'm teaching the outline that you guys are filling out, it has information, so you guys can fill it out as I speak to you about it, right? Carbon has 4 valence electrons. We know what a valence electron is. It's an electron on the outside of the element, and these valence electrons, they like bonding, they like making friends with other elements. So this is where we get carbon bonds from. So we have hydrogen. If 4 hydrogen atoms are bonded to carbon, we have methane. If we have 2 hydrogen bonds bonded to carbon, we have the acetylene. This is going through stuff in chemistry, but this gives you a little bit of a basis of why carbon is so essential to life, right? So these are all examples of different structures that carbon can have. Carbon can have a single bond where it's bonded to one element. It can have a double bond where 2 of its valence electrons are bonded to another element, or it can have triple bonds where 3 of the electrons are bound to another element, okay? From these structures, we can get chains, or we can get rings, okay? For example, benzene is a very common ring, carbon ring, and we also have branching chains. So carbon has 4 valence electrons. Carbon can form single, double, and triple covalent bonds, and carbon can form chains, branch chains, or rings. Do you remember this? Yes? So, we also have macromolecules. So macromolecules are substances that are large organic molecules. They're found in all living things. They are connected, they are monomers. These monomers are single units, and they're connected together by chemical processes to form polymers. Polymers are chains of monomers, and there's a process called polymerization where they all connect to one another. This is what makes us up, okay? So polymerization is the process of joining monomers to form polymers. Monomers are like individualized beads, and polymers are like the necklace, okay? Some common macromolecules we have carbohydrates, lipids, nucleic acids, and proteins. I know earlier we said enzymes. Enzymes are a type of protein, right? Do you guys remember these? Carbohydrates, lipids, nucleic acids, and proteins. So we're going to go through each one of these macromolecules, okay? So we have carbohydrates. Carbohydrates, they're used as sources of energy and for structural support. So the example we have of carbohydrates are starch. Starches are polymers that are made up of monomers. Like for example, glucose. So you guys know glucose is sugar, right? So these monomers add up and they create a polymer, such as starch, right? So with regards to carbohydrates, we have monosaccharides. These are the monomers that build up carbohydrates, a saccharide, a sugar. These make up polysaccharides, okay? In biology, you guys should know that we have a lot of prefixes and suffixes that dictate the nomenclature or the name of things, right? So if I say mono, that means one, right? Poly means many, right? Di means two, tri means three, etc., right? So for carbohydrates, we have a ratio that the carbons bond to hydrogen and oxygen, and this ratio is 1 to 2 to 1. The functions of carbohydrates are for energy and for structural support. So we see this a lot in plants. And extra sugars are stored in plants as starches, and they are stored in animals as glycogen. So for example, let's say we don't eat breakfast and we come to school. We're really hungry. So our body is going to use up the glycogen, which is like a mass storage of sugar, carbohydrates for us, okay? So these are your carbohydrates. Now, we move on to lipids. Lipids are a little different. Lipids are a large and varied group of macromolecules. They are not soluble in water. These are chains of fatty acids. So, you can see here we have single bonds of carbon to hydrogen. And we also have double bonds and triple bonds. So, this forms unsaturated and saturated bonds between the carbons. So for lipids, they mostly consist of carbon and hydrogen. They're not soluble in water, so that means they don't dissolve in water. And this is what stores long-term energy, and it also helps with cell membranes and hormones. You guys know the lipid bilayer in cells? Yes? So this bilayer, this boundary between cells, is what helps determine what goes in and out of your cells, right? Is this kind of ringing bells for you guys? You guys remembering?
Yes.
Yeah? Awesome. Then we have nucleic acids. So nucleic acids are polymers made of nucleotide monomers, right? So with nucleic acids, we have a 5-carbon sugar, we have a phosphate group, and we have a nitrogenous base, okay? So monomers of nucleic acids are nucleotides. So the two most common nucleic acids are DNA sugars, which is called deoxyribose, and RNA sugars, which are made up of ribose. The function of nucleic acid, as we all know, is to store hereditary information, right? So nucleic acids. proteins. So proteins are polymers made up of amino acid monomers. So for proteins, we have an amino group, which is an H2 group, and we also have a carboxylic group, which is made up of carboxylic acid, and our carbon is also bound to a hydrogen and an R group. The R groups are different groups, different chains of carbon and other elements, and this is what leads to diversity between the amino acids and thus proteins, okay? So, instead we have the amino group, which is the NH2 group, and we have the carboxylic group, which is right here with the carbon and this group. So we have peptide bond formation that happens that connects these amino acids together that leads to our proteins, okay? So the monomer of proteins are amino acids. They differ by their R group, and the functions of proteins are different types of support or transport or defense, and also what was spoken about earlier is enzymes. Enzymes are probably one of the most popular types of proteins in our body, right? So, protein structure. Alright, so, protein structure. Proteins are made up in different levels. So we have primary structure, which is our simple amino acids. Secondary structure, which are coils or folds. I don't know if you guys learned about this, but I learned about this a lot when I was in school. But alpha helices and beta sheets, another secondary structure. Tertiary structure are where we get the 3D shape. And quaternary is multiple chains of tertiary structures, okay? And correct structure dictates protein function, okay? Alright, so I want you guys to work in your groups, and I want you to try to fill out the outlines together as a group. I'll be walking around. If you have any questions together on it. So work on this. If you have your epic binder or your textbook or your notes. Everybody have one? Alright guys, so because of time, we're gonna go through some of these questions. So number one, very long and large organic molecules called polymers are made up of small units called monomers. Examples of small units include sugars, which combine to form carbohydrates, nucleotides which form nucleic acids, and amino acids which form protein. Okay? Oh, the lowest. The second to last one, nucleic acids. The last one is protein. And then the last one, carbohydrates. Alright, anyone have the second question?
No.
Yes, polymers. Talks about carbon, right? So what allows carbon to bond with up to 4 other atoms at a time? D, right? D is in dog, right? 4 electrons in its outer shell, right? 4 balanced electrons, okay? Alright, so number 3, I know we didn't really cover much of it. It says the cell wall of a plant consists mostly of cellulose, a carbohydrate, which provides a strong structure. The cell membrane gets structure primarily from lipids and embedded proteins that allow for material transport. Which of the following elements would be found in the lowest amounts in both the cell wall and the cell membrane? So the answer to this one is D, sodium. So carbon and hydrogen are both can be found abundantly. Phosphorus also binds to make carbohydrates sometimes, proteins. Number 4, which of the following, which 2 types of organic polymers are made from the same type of monomer? So this would be starches and cellulose. DNA and proteins are separate. Fatty acids and nucleic acids are separate. Proteins and cellulose are separate. Number 4. The answer to number 4 is A. The starches and the cellulose fall under the same macromolecule. Number 5, Kendra wishes to build a model of a carbohydrate molecule, ideally containing as many monomers as possible. Which set should she choose? So, set 2, right? Good. Somebody said set 2, that's correct. Because carbohydrates are made up of the carbon, oxygen, and hydrogen. Number 6, which change to one of the kits would make it useful for modeling proteins? Would be set 3. You replace the phosphorus atoms with epoxy sulfur. Number 7, which of the following is not one of the
C.
Number 6 is C. Number 7, which of the following is not one of the functions of lipids? So do A, forming exoskeletons of insects. Alright, guys, finish up.